Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us for a service today for somebody who we all knew and loved so very much. One of the things that defined Ray was his military service, and we have reached out to the U.S. Navy to honor his military service here today. You may be seated. There's a poem that reads, "Don't grieve for me, for now I'm free. I'm following the path that God laid for me. I took God's hand when I heard God call. I turned my back and left it all. I could not stay another day to laugh, to love, to work or play. Tasks left undone must stay that way. I found that place at the close of day. And if my passing has left a void, then fill it with remembered joy. A friendship shared, a laugh, a kiss. Yes, these things I too will miss. Be not burdened with times of sorrow. I wish you the sunshine of tomorrow. My life's been full, I've savored much. Good friends, good times, a loved one's touch. Perhaps my time seemed all too brief, but don't lengthen it now with undue grief. Lift up your heart and share with me. God wanted me now. God set me free." I was reminiscing briefly with the family how 6 years ago we thought we lost Ray. 6 years ago, but the tremendous recovery and moving forward was something that always defined his life the way I've seen him and known him. I met Ray at one of the most difficult times in his life, the loss of his son, Chad. Nothing could have been more difficult, and things that followed can be difficult as well. But Ray took that experience, helped his family through it, and most importantly, used it to pay it forward. The Chad Gunther Foundation, the money he gives for the scoreboards, for the youth leagues in Camden, for all over the area, are something that define him so well in this region. Something that defined him so much that one of our state senators came here today to pay his respects for a man who gave back so much to his community. We're going to hear a lot of stories today, and I love what you've done as far as speakers. Someone who knew Ray's childhood, when you were growing up, Centennial Mill, and Ashley will finish it off with her comments as family members. A beautiful, well-rounded story about Ray Gunther, someone we know and love very much. So I'm going to start off by asking if Eddie Fisher can please step forward and share his thoughts about Ray.
My name's Eddie Fisher. Raymond and I grew up together in Camden. I guess Harry just made me choke up. One choked up till he did that. Anyway, we met each other, I guess we're about 11 years old. So what's that, about 69 years. So it's been a while. So a few things to say about Raymond, as you just said about Raymond with the stroke and everything else. When we were growing up, I'm ambidextrous. And I used to tell Raymond all the time, I said, if he was left-handed, I say, knucklehead. I say, you got to learn to throw both hands. So he has a stroke and it's on his left side. I said, I told you, buddy. I told you. Anyway, so Raymond Peter Gunther, right? Peter obviously is his father's name. He is my unfiltered friend. I think that rings the bell with everybody, right? All right, we all have stories about Raymond. Pardon me for reading this. I'm a school teacher. I should be able to just say from the heart, which is what this is from, but yeah, it's a little tough. Anyway, we all have stories about Raymond and our relationships with Raymond. Cherish those memories of our unique individual. Right? I am sure he would appreciate those memories that we all have for him. Quite a character. Raymond was a breath of fresh air. He walked into a room, be it on a mission to solve a problem or just showing up for whatever. A bright light walked with him. That light is not out. We continue to have that light in our memory. And he would relish that we remember in that respect. I am sure everyone in this room, I can do this. I'm sure everybody in this room can remember the first time they met Raymond. He has an everlasting impression on you. So we all have to keep those impressions in our mind. Now, Raymond and I met, which is kind of unique, all right? Raymond and I met at second base in a Little League baseball game, right? He was playing on the other team, and for some unknown reason, this clown that was playing third base for us, he caught a ground ball. He was supposed to throw it to me at second base, and he ran over to tag the bag out. You know, and I looked, I said, that's what I remember. I said, what the hell is this? You know, I'm 11 years old. So finds out that this kid doesn't like Raymond. He want to make him out at second base. And from that point after that, Raymond and I have been sort of inseparable in many ways. Different times we'd hang up, different times we wouldn't. So anyway, that was in 1956. Our times were playing against each other all the time. We hardly ever played together. He and I have been standing on different bases all our lives ever since. And it depends on which one you're looking at and which time we are. Raymond is exemplified by these two songs that I think about, as you alluded to, Harry. Frank Sinatra. When Frank Sinatra sings, you know, That's Life, right? And that was Raymond, right? That whole step right there, it says, whenever you get down, just pick yourself up, get back up, and get in a race. And you alluded to that also. Same exact thing, constantly. And then the other one is a Jim Croce song, Time in a Bottle, right? And that's where Raymond is now, but that bottle is in us. And we have to remember him as far as that's concerned. He is the light, right? That is the legacy for me, as far as Raymond is concerned. The lasting impression on my life, as you all know, a lot of years.
Thank you, Eddie. It's a poem that reads, I'd like the memory of me to be a happy one. I'd like to leave an afterglow of smiles when life is done. I'd like to leave an echo whispering softly down the ways of happy times and laughing times and bright and sunny days. I'd like the tears of those who grieve to dry before the sun, of happy memories that I leave when my life is done. I would next like to call up Ed Smith to share his thoughts on Ray.
Not easy, huh, Eddie? I had lunch today at Ponzio's, and Ray assuredly would have scolded me and said, Olga's is where you go for lunch, because they sponsored all of our Little League teams and all of the sports involvement that Ray was involved in. So he'd always chide me if for some reason I'd end up at Ponzio's. But we've been away for 20 years, having moved away in 1996. But we moved here to Cherry Hill 40 years and 4 months ago, and that's how long I knew Ray. We just so happened to be building a house in Country Walk very shortly after Ray and Karen did. We were so excited to find out that there was another family in the neighborhood who had children about the ages of our children, and someone that was interested in sports to the degree that I was. And Ray and I became fast friends and enjoyed just an incredible number of wonderful opportunities together. As Eddie said, he was just the most special person. When I became aware that Ray had involvement having coached youth sports, he and I decided, because we both at that time had five-year-old boys, we said, let's get involved in the local Little League. So Ray and I joined up to Atlantic Little League, eventually became the president of that league, and ran that league for 7 years. It was during that time that the local Babe Ruth team won the World Championship in Babe Ruth baseball. And Ray coached many of the young men who eventually played on that team. Ray coached literally hundreds of children while he was a member of Atlantic Little League. And even today, from time to time, if I'm in town, I'll run into a 45-year-old who will say, I remember you ran American Little League. And how's Ray Gunther? Because Ray had a way with young people, unlike literally any coach that I was ever around. An anecdote to that was that every now and then he'd bring Eddie in to work with our pitchers. There was just nothing Ray wouldn't do to try to help every youth player be the very best player that they could be. And they loved him for it. One of the jokes about that, and a joke that my wife and I tell each other from time to time, is we'll look at each other and say, everybody gets a trophy. Because for Ray, no child didn't get a trophy. Every child was appreciated. Every child left their participation with Ray thinking, I'm special, because Ray made them feel special. It wouldn't be unusual for me to go over to Ray's house, which was only a block away, and Ray had a pool which was just the love of everybody in the neighborhood. But I'd go over there, and there'd be 30 baseball players in his pool. Not just from Ray's team, but kids from around the league, even kids from other Cherry Hill leagues. That was the kind of guy that Ray was. He was just, everybody was welcome. There was nothing that he and Karen were not willing to do for the young people. And they did. They'd all be in the pool, and Karen would be grilling for everyone. Yeah. One of the things that Ray said to me, maybe about our second year of being together in Little League, he came to me one day, and you all know how it is when you're in your mid-30s and late 30s, and you're trying to have a career and trying to do the right thing for your family. And Ray came to me one day and said, how can you work during Little League season? He said, how do you do that? He said, games are 5 and 5:30, so we need to be over there by 1 or 2 in the afternoon to line the fields and rake the infields and make sure that everything's set so that those kids could have their moment in the spotlight. You all know the tremendous degree that Ray had technical talent in building things. Ray was quite the carpenter, and many people that were around that Little League at that time will remember how Ray every night would come and hammer nails with me, either building a refreshment stand or redoing the roofs of the dugouts. There was just never anything that Ray was not willing to do. He was just the type of guy that everybody aspired to be when it came to participation in things like Little League. Two last things I wanted to say. One is that, so I knew Ray for 40 years and 4 months. That's from the day I met Ray until today, 40 years and 4 months. And over these last 6 years, as we talked about, and Ray's health issue, I only saw him twice. And life's short. Don't let that happen to you. Make sure you see the people you love so that you don't end up whimpering like me up here about why you didn't do that. And the last thing I wanted to say was something that Ray and I once were in Williamsport for a Little League regional meeting. And a speaker said something at that when Ray and I left that meeting, he said to me, that's one of the most eloquent things I've ever heard said. And for Ray to say something like that was really quite a feat. And I won't be able to say it exactly, but I can get pretty close to it if I get through it. And that was that any ash tree in America would gladly give its life if it thought that its wood might be used to make a bat used by a 10-year-old in a Little League game. That's my memory of Ray. I love you, brother.
It's beautiful. Thank you very much, Ed. Margaret Mead wrote, "Remember me in your heart, your thoughts, your memories, the times we've loved, the times we've cried, the times we've fought, the times we've laughed. For if you think of me, I will never be gone." I'd like to ask, please, if Mark Lichterman can please come up and share his thoughts.
I'd like to start off by saying, that my wife wrote me a speech, but I'm not using it, so I hope she's not embarrassed with what I have to say. I want to start with Ray at Centennial Mill. Rosie and I were one of the first there, and when Karen and Ray came, Ray changed everything. Softball, all sports, especially wiffle ball. Everybody wanted to be on Ray's team, especially me. My nickname was Thumbs Lichterman. So being with Ray, I was always winning. Other things, Ray was very good to my grandkids. He always went to I took him to all the games, Julian's baseball games, Ariel's lacrosse, field hockey. Even when he had to take him in a wheelchair, he always wanted to go, and I'm really thankful for that. Saturdays and Sundays, Ray and I used to do yard sales. And one particular yard sale, he comes to me and says, "Mel K wants a moose head." I said, "You have to be kidding me." I said, "Is it okay with Jane?" He says, "Mel said he's the boss. Don't worry about it." So a few weeks later, we found a moose head, put it on his front porch. Needless to say, Jane was not very happy. Yeah, he was really terrific, Ray. Special Olympics. He got me and a couple other men from Centennial Mill involved. He got my son Donnie. Donnie did volleyball and basketball for Special Olympics. I did, like I said, softball. We won 3 trophies. Karen would set up. Don't embarrass Roz. Don't be embarrassed. Karen and Ray would set up movie night, and after the movie, we used to go for hoagies. Used to go bowling, pizza with bowling. Jenny's here from Special Olympics, and she's terrific. She really helped Ray and myself with everything. I'm trying to think of anything else. I said he went to my Julian. He used to call my grandson Slugger, and Ariel with the field hockey, and that's it. I'm not going to get myself in any more trouble. Ray, rest in peace. I love you very much. Karen, we love you too, and Ashley. Thank you. Okay.
Alvin Fine wrote, "Birth is a beginning, and death a destination. But life is a journey, a going, a growing from stage to stage. From childhood to maturity and youth to age, from innocence to awareness and ignorance to knowing, from foolishness to discretion and perhaps to wisdom, from weakness to strength or strength to weakness, and often back again, from health to sickness and back, we hope, to health again, from offense to forgiveness, from loneliness to love, from joy to gratitude, from pain to compassion, and grief to understanding, from fear to faith, from defeat to defeat to defeat, and still looking backward or ahead, we see that the victory lies not at some high point along the way, but in having made the journey, stage by stage, a sacred pilgrimage. Birth is a beginning and death a destination, but life is a journey, a going, a growing, a sacred pilgrimage made stage by stage, from birth to death to life everlasting." We have heard Ray's impact on people's lives throughout his life, and we'll continue with those thoughts as we ask Bernie Miller to please join us.
One of the problems with being one of the final speakers is everybody else is using your material. So if I have a little redundancy here, you'll please forgive. Ray would be blown away to see this crowd of people here, that people that loved him, people that he loved, and we're so happy that you're here for support for Karen and the family. Today we are saddened for the passing of our friend and neighbor, Ray Gunther. That said, we're also here to celebrate his life. He was a good soul. In moving to Centennial Mill in January of 2007, my wife Ann and I met Karen at the outdoor pool and became fast friends. Over the years, we've shared many good times and bad, happy and sad. Ray really liked the CM members and was a good friend to many of the residents, often helping many folks with assistance with their homes, doing electrical work, getting sheets. He would do everything, and he really enjoyed that part. Just a few of the highlights that Ray, Karen, Ann, and I experienced together included some trips to Florida, where we drew up the original blueprints for what became the recreational programs at Centennial Mill. We started out with horseshoes, bocce, shuffleboard, and soon added golfball, half-ball, wiffle ball, volleyball, and a half-court basketball. Ray helped to create a few other events. We started the first free hot dog day by the pool, followed by pretzel day, followed by yum yum day. Ray was a part of the original Grill Boys, cooking burgers and hot dogs and chicken. Boy, you could sweat off 10 pounds every time you cooked. Many of you will remember his many faces from the comedy club and the MAP musicals. No matter the parts he played, whether it was Elvis, Sonny from Sonny and Cher, they were always a fan favorite. Of course, when he dressed in a diaper only, that was an unforgettable performance, although it should have been. As the years passed, we helped to develop bingo and many other events that have become popular at the mill. He and Karen became certified real estate reps and found a new and exciting way to sell properties, specializing right there in Centennial Mill, where they sold over 125 homes. Karen continues to represent many buyers and sellers today. Ray and some of our residents worked with the Bancroft School, who you heard from Mark about, and he coached baseball for the senior adults there. He really gave of himself to them and loved every minute that he was there. About 5 years ago, things changed for Ray after being hospitalized and surviving a couple of strokes. Yet, like the ever-ready bunny, he was resilient and discovered ways to overcome those disabilities. Ray served as both board chairman and member for many years. Many of you had seen Ray in his golf cart cruising the neighborhood. He would always stop to chat with neighbors and friends. A half-hour intended trip turned into a 2-hour, hello, how are you? A visit to see our old buddy Saul Liebman became part of Ray's weekly activity. The two of them would rehash old days where they grew up in South Philly and, of course, Camden. More recently, it had become hard for Ray to communicate as he was bedridden, yet he would squeeze my hand and mouth words to let me know he was still here. Like most of you, there are so many stories that make us smile when we think of Ray. You should be comfortable to share those experiences with Karen and the family. To Karen and the family, we are all so sad to lose Ray. But as a one-of-a-kind guy, we will always remember the many sides of him and cherish those moments. Ray, in the immortal words of Bob Hope, thanks for the memories. Until we meet again, my friend.
Thank you, Bernie. David Harkin wrote, "You can shed tears because he is gone, or you can smile because he lived. You can close your eyes and hope that he will come back, or you can open your eyes and see all that he has left. Your heart can be empty because you can't see him, or you can be full of the love that you shared together. You can turn back tomorrow and live for yesterday, or you can be happy for tomorrow because of yesterday. You can remember him and only that he is gone, or you can cherish his memory and let it live on. You can cry, close your mind, be empty and turn your back, or you can do what he would want you to do. Smile, open your eyes, love, and go on." To share our final thoughts today, I'd like to ask Ashley to please come up. And Mackenzie, sorry.
I wrote a book. Just kidding. My grandmother did. Okay. My father would yell at me for putting a speech on the phone because if your phone dies, then you don't have your speech. So thankfully, I'm charged. Okay. All right. A couple months ago, a contractor was at my house as I was getting ready to sell it so I could move back home. The contractor was a good friend. He's done a lot for me, and he asked me, "Why are you selling this beautiful house?" I looked outside at the water, and then I looked back at him, and I said, "I'm moving home to go take care of my father, to help take care of my father, and to be closer to my family." It was a promise that I made to my father when I was very young, usually before I asked for money to go to the mall. But nonetheless, I made the promise. My contractor said, "That says a lot about your character." I said, "Thank you," but it actually says more about my father's. My father was not perfect, so I'll start off with what I did not get from him. Patience. My hair, not the case for my brothers. And lastly, whatever the opposite of stubborn would be. I was really at a loss for words. I've been lost for words, which is not normal, but I really wasn't sure what to say. And I was going through some pictures, as we do, and came across a letter that my dad wrote to his mother. So like true Ray Gunther fashion, he wrote my speech for me. As I read it, and as I read it to you, I think you'll understand why this resonates so much. Dear Mom, it is very hard to put into words the love, affection, and respect I have for you. The years have flown by so quickly, and all I have is wonderful memories of you. You taught me to love others and be a kind person to all who touched my life. You've done a great job. There is one other aspect of my life that was implemented in my brain forever, and that was respect. A great man, a loving husband, and an understanding father molded me into the person I am today. I just pray he's looking down at me saying, "That damn kid finally made good after all." Since there were only 3 times in my life that he lifted a hand to me, and one was for writing dirty notes to the neighbors, the other 2 for disrespecting my mother. I will never do that again. I've had a wonderful life. I have had a wonderful life, and I looked around the room, and thought just how lucky I was to have you. All of the friends and relatives, but I am your blood, your baby, your son. Hope this day was special for you, Ray. Love you, Ray. Love, Mom. My father's love for his mother it was strong, very, very strong. They were very, very close. And I would love when my grandmother came to visit. And my grandmother wrote, "My granddaughter Ashley came to visit me a few times, and we had so much fun with one another. We really enjoyed one another's company. We went to Las Vegas, the Grand Canyon, but most of all, we liked reading, playing school, and going to the library. It was a great time for me when she was with me. I know that she also enjoyed this time with her grandmother. I would tell my granddaughter Ashley these stories before she went to sleep at night when she stayed over my house. This is her favorite story. One day I found that $5 was missing from my purse, and Ray came in. I asked him if he took the $5. He said, 'No, Mom.' I knew that I'm not the smartest in the world, but I'm not that dumb. He had so many bubblegum baseball packets that would take about $5 of baseball packets of what he had. I knew that's where my money went. I told him to sit on the floor and open all the packets of gum and separate them from the cards. Then I made him sit there and tear up each card, one by one, into small pieces. I never brought up the $5 again. He grew up to be a man, and he told me that was the worst punishment he's ever had as a child. He said, 'Why didn't you hit me or beat me or do anything to me? But why did you have to make me tear up my baseball cards?' He did fess up that he took the $5. I made up true stories about our family before she went to sleep. She loved them, mostly the ones of her father when he was a little boy." Things my father did teach me: how to play ball. He took "there's no crying in baseball" to a whole nother level. One Long Island iced tea is good, 2 is too many. How to sell milk to a milkman. To always be kind and generous. When I was in college, I had the family car, and like any good college student does, I crashed it. And I decided to write my father an email on AOL, which was not the appropriate communication at that time, but I was so scared to call. So I wrote him an email, and I said, "Dad, I crashed the car." And I just kind of waited, a while for his response. I should have just called. And I got an email back from him, and this was the best advice my father's ever given me. The email said this: "Shit happens. The sooner you realize that, the easier your life will be. Bring the car home. I'll fix it. Love you, Dad." The past 6 years was a gift to us. My daughter has memories that she will remember forever. Kevin, my dad, had become best friends. My dad's best friend, Eddie, moved back home, and they got to be kids again. We got to watch the Eagles blow another Super Bowl together. But this past 6 years has also been a lot. And Mom, thank you. You put in the work every day so that we could enjoy him a little bit longer. I know he was a fighter, but there would be no fight if you weren't by his side. And thank you. Frank Sinatra once said, "I would like to be remembered as a man who had a wonderful time living life, a man who had good friends, fine family, and I don't think I could ask for anything more than that, actually." Frank Sinatra said, "You only live once, and the way I live, once is enough." We've been through a lot of loss, but I think what really gets me through is knowing those extra 6 years. There were no words unsaid. Time was spent well, and we valued every moment that we had because we knew we were on gifted time. So I leave you with this. In Frank Sinatra's words, the best is yet to come. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ashley, and everyone who shared just great stories and great memories about Ray. At the rising of the sun and at its going down, we will remember Ray Gunther. At the blowing of the wind and the chill of winter, we'll remember a loving husband. At the opening of the buds and rebirth of spring, we'll remember a dear father. At the blueness of the skies and the warmth of summer, we'll remember a wonderful grandfather. At the rustling of the leaves and the beauty of autumn, remember an incredible friend. As long as we live, he too will live, for he is now a part of us as we remember him. When we are weary and in need of strength, when we are lost and sick at heart, when we have joy we crave to share, when we have decisions that are difficult to make, and when we have achievements that are based on his, we will remember him. As long as we live, he too will live, for he is now and will always be a part of us. As today and forever, we remember Ray Gunther. I'm going to ask if we can take a moment of silence just to remember Ray and how he affected and touched your life. The traditional closing prayer, the memorial prayer, will come next. I'm going to ask if everybody can please rise. O God, full of compassion, thou who dwellest on high, grant perfect peace under the sheltering wings of your presence, among the holy and pure, to a beloved person, Ray Gunther, who has gone to his eternal home. Master of mercy, we beseech you, remember all the worthy, righteous, fun, giving, and generous deeds that he performed here in the land of the living, and may his soul be bound up in the bond of eternal life. Be thou his possession, and may he always rest in peace. As we say together, amen. And you may be seated. Immediately following the conclusion of services here, we'll be going to Locustwood Memorial Park to entomb the urn next to Chad and with Chad, so they'll be together forever as well. And following the conclusion of the cemetery service, everyone is invited back to Ray and Karen's home, 107 Borton Avenue in Voorhees, New Jersey, and Centennial Mill. Also, contributions in memory of Ray can be made to the Centennial Mill Veterans Club, care of Karen at the same address, another way that Ray is paying it forward as a foundation to help with veterans and another area he loves so much.